Hello everyone. In this video, we start discussing chapter 12, where we cover agency problem, compensation, and performance measurement. So far, we have concentrated on criteria and procedures for identifying capital investments with positive NPVs. If a firm takes all positive NPV projects, it maximizes firm's value. But do the firm's managers want to maximize value? That's a big question. Managers have no special incentive that automatically aligns their personal interests with outside investors' financial objectives. So, how do shareholders ensure that top managers do not pursue their own goals? And how do top managers ensure that middle managers and employees try as hard as they can to find positive NPV projects? So, you understand that here we are bringing back the principal agents problems that was discussed in chapter 1. Shareholders are the ultimate principals. Top managers are their agents. But middle managers and employees are in turn the agents of top management. Thus, senior managers, including the chief financial officers, are simultaneously agents of shareholders and principals for the rest of the firm. The problem is to get everyone working together to maximize value. So in this chapter, we will be talking about two main points. One is the incentives, making sure that managers and employees are rewarded appropriately when they add value to the firm, and performance measurement. You can't reward value added unless you can measure it. Since you get what you reward and reward what you measure, you get what you measure. So this chapter has basically two parts. In one part, we will understand the importance of incentives to ensure that managers, employees are rewarded properly when they add value for the companies. And also we will understand how we can measure performance. So as we already indicated that shareholders are the ultimate owners of the company. However, in reality, the shareholders do not run the company by themselves. Rather, they delegate their decision making to board of directors who hire expert managers to run the business. So although owners are basically the shareholders, however, managers are the more powerful because managers have the power to run the business. And sometimes managers may not pursue the goal of the shareholders' wealth maximization. Rather, they may be tempted to pursue their own goal. Now, top management, including CFO, must try to ensure that managers and employees have the right incentive to find and invest in positive NPV projects. We will soon see how difficult it is to get incentives right throughout a large corporation. So, the question may come that why not bypass these difficulties? Let the CFO and his or her immediate staff make the important investment decisions. So the mid-level or other employees may try to bypass the finding out the positive NPV projects and implementing them. However, this bypassing these problems also may not be easier. Okay, so incentive bypass problems. First of all, the bypass won't work for various reasons. For example, top management would have to analyze thousands of projects every year. So there is no way to know enough about each one to make intelligent choices. Top management must rely on the analysis done at lower level. So at lower level, employees need to work on find out a good project. The design of a capital investment project involves investment decision that top managers do not see. Think of a proposal to build a new factory. Managers who developed the plan for the factory had to decide its location. Suppose they choose a more expensive site to get closer to a pool of skilled workers. That's an investment decision. Additional investment to generate extra cash from access to these workers' skills. Now, does this additional investment generate additional NPV compared to building the factory at a cheaper site? How is the CFO to know? He or she can't afford the time to investigate every alternative that was considered but rejected by the project sponsor. Many capital investments don't appear in the capital budget. These include research and development, worker training, and marketing outlets designed to expand a market or lock in satisfied customers. Fourth one is small decisions add up. Operating managers make investment decisions every day. They may carry extra inventories of raw materials so they won't have to worry about being caught up. And last of all, CFO may subject to same kinds of temptation that afflict lower layers of managers. The CFO or the top executives also can make errors. So you can see that although the mid-level managers or the lower level managers may be tempted to bypass the pain of finding out a good investment projects and implement it, however, you see that bypass may not work for this type of issues. Now, agency problem and capital budgeting. As you have surely understood by this time that there is no perfect system of incentives, but it's easy to see what won't work. Suppose shareholders decide to pay the financial managers a fixed salary, no bonuses, no stock options, just a dollar amount per month. The manager, as the stockholders agent, is instructed to find and invest in all positive NPV projects open to the firm. The manager may sincerely try to do so, but will face various tempting alternatives as human beings. What are those? First of all is reduced effort. Finding and implementing investment is truly valuable project is a high effort and high pressure activity. The finance manager will be tempted to slack off. Don't provide enough effort to find out a good project. Parks. The hypothetical manager that we just talked about a few moments ago get no bonuses, only a fixed dollar amount per month, but he or she may take a bonus anyway, not in cash, but in tickets to sporting events, lavish office accommodations, planning meetings scheduled at a luxury resort, or so on. Economists refer to these non-pecuniary rewards as private benefits. Ordinary people call them parks, that is a short of park visits. Empire building. Other things equal, managers prefer to run large business rather than the small ones. Getting from small to large may not be a positive NPV undertaking. Managers also reluctant to dismantle their empire. That is, they are reluctant to disinvest. So although they may not be consistent with value maximization, but managers may tempt to do them. Entrenching investment is the next one. Suppose manager Q considers two expansion plans. One plan will require a manager with a special skill that manager Q has just happened to have, and the other plan requires only a general purpose manager. Guess which plan the manager Q will favor? Projects designed to require or reward the skills of existing managers are called entrenching investment. So managers who have a special skill to run a project will tempted to take those projects, although they may not be consistent with shareholders' wealth maximization. And last of all is avoiding risk. If the manager receives only a fixed salary, she cannot share in the upside of risky projects. But if the risky project turns out to be a loser, her job may be on the line. In this case, safe projects are, from the manager's viewpoint, better than risky ones. But risky project can sometimes have large positive NPVs should be taken. Now, from the problems discussed in the last slide, you understand that managers may be tempted to take decision of their own or of their own favor without going with the shareholders' wealth maximization goal. So, as shareholders, what we need to do is we need to try to align shareholders' goal with the manager's goal. And what we need to do, we need to monitor that if managers are pursuing shareholders' goal. Okay, so as we learned in chapter 1, that agency problem arises when managers do not pursue shareholders' goal and that incur cost. And this agency cost can be reduced by monitoring a manager's efforts and actions. Monitoring can prevent the more obvious agency costs. For example, huge perquisites, as we discussed in the last slide. It can confirm that manager is putting sufficient time on the job, but monitoring requires time and money as well. And some monitoring is almost always worthwhile. The next question can come, who actually does the monitoring? Ultimately, it is the shareholder's responsibility, but in large public companies, monitoring is delegated to the board of directors who are elected by shareholders and are supposed to represent their interests. The board meets regularly, both formally and informally, with top management. Now, after the board, there also comes the role of independent accountants or auditors. Board hires these independent accountants to audit the firm's financial statements. If the audit uncovers no problem, the auditors issue an opinion that financial statements fairly represents the company's financial condition and are consistent with generally accepted accounting principles. If the problems are found, the auditors will negotiate change in assumption or procedures. Delegated monitoring is also especially important when ownership is widely dispersed. If there is a dominant stockholders, he or she will generally keep a close eye on top management. And you know that lenders are also monitors. If a company takes out a large bank loan, the bank will track the company's assets, earnings, and cash flow. By monitoring to protect its loan, the bank protects shareholders' interests as well. And sometimes rival companies also monitor because your rival companies will try to identify that if the company's shares are underpriced in the market relative to what they should be. If a company is well managed, then there may be a chance of takeover. So these are the parties that monitor a company performance for various purposes. Now, a few sentences about the compensation. You know that since monitoring is necessarily imperfect sometimes, because by monitoring you cannot always identify if managers are deviating from the shareholders' goal. That's why compensation plans must be designed to attract competent managers and to give them the right incentives. So you can see the figure in the slide which compares the level of compensation in different countries. And if you look, for example, starting from China to US, we find out a couple of figures. First of all, in the case of US, you can see that has unusually high level of executive packages. You can see that for US it is somewhere 5.5 million, whereas, for example, in Japan it's only about 1 million. You can see that CEOs in the United States also get about 3 times of what Germans get, and also, as I was saying, that 10 times of what Japanese CEOs pay. Although the CEO compensation in US, if we come here in 2001, you can see that CEO compensation declined in 2001 at the end of the dot-com bubble, probably again during the global financial crisis in 2008-2009, there has the most been part of a strong upward trend. You can see generally upward trend, or except these 2 periods. And also you can see that in this graph what we see, this is the total compensation and this is the salary and bonus. So you can see that there is a large fraction of the CEO compensation comes from variable bonuses, for example, stock options and long-term incentives. So to summarize, you can see that although US CEOs get extraordinarily high incentives compared to other, there was a downward decline during the financial crisis period. However, other than that, there was upward trends. And you can see the variable salaries, which are stock options, and the performance-based salaries have increased substantially over the next few decades. So that's the end of our discussion on this part, and in the next video we will be discussing different performance measurement. Thank you.